Let's get into what we've been up to.
All right. Well, what about you? What have you been up to this week?
Well, I've got 3 things to talk about.
Oh.
3. We can go with a season premiere that I watched, a film that I recently saw, an older film that I finally got around to experiencing, and a season finale that I recently watched.
All right. Let's go with the premiere.
Okay. I watched the first episode of the new Project Greenlight.
Ooh, okay.
I know you've been into that a little bit.
Yeah, I was telling you to watch it.
Yeah, so if you don't know, Project Greenlight is an HBO series from Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Essentially, in the past, it's been they choose a writer and director to make a movie and kind of bring these people through the process of making a movie and show the public how a movie really gets made. Mm-hmm. This season, they've paired up with the Farley brothers to write a script. And then they've just chosen specifically a director to make the movie. First episode, I'm really into it.
Yeah. I mean, well, all right. So this show, again, Project Greenlight, HBO. It originally started like a decade ago.
Yeah,
maybe longer.
I think because I think of the premiere, he's like, oh yeah, this started 13. Like we did the first one like 13 years ago.
Yeah, they did like two seasons on HBO. Then they did the 3rd season, I think, on AMC.
And that's the one that led to Feast.
Yeah, that led to Feast with what's that guy's name?
John
Gulager. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon had nothing to do with it at that point once it left HBO, and it had been off the air for years. Mm-hmm. And now it's back, minus Chris Moore, who was the 3rd producer, and with Ben Affleck, like you said. And when I heard that it was coming back, I got really excited. And I didn't even watch the Gulager season. Mm-hmm. I only watched the first 2. I was a kid from New England. At that time, I loved Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, and I worshipped at their idol. Probably be talking about Matt Damon a little bit here. I wanted to be a filmmaker. It was like the perfect storm of things. And I was really excited for it to come back now that, I've worked in the industry, I've seen all of that, and to see it now, to see somebody just getting fresh into it and see what they do this time around now that HBO's come so far, reality television's come a lot further, all these things have happened since that show first came on. And I'm glad to hear that you like the start. I've now seen the first 3 episodes. Okay. There's, I believe, 4 have aired as of when we're recording this. And it only gets better. Okay. One of the most interesting things, I don't want to, you should check out the show. I don't think that we should ruin it. Right?
Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much or get into too deep of it. But
the thing that got me in the first episode, maybe you agree, is that they chose a filmmaker for a broad comedy script who is not right for that. Yeah. Knowing that he's not right for it, but that he was the best filmmaker of the people that they could choose. Mm-hmm. And that, right from episode 1, I was like, all right, that's interesting. Yeah. Let's see where that goes.
It's interesting in a way that I almost, part of me is like, well, did they do this? Did they pick him just, it's going to make really good TV if they do this? Or, from we only get to see clips of these shorts. Right. I don't know if you can find, I'd like to go find the short films that were submitted. I imagine they're probably online somewhere.
For those one of the finalists in the first episode is the guy who made, it's a pretty popular YouTube video, like Jigsaw Living at Home.
Living with Jigsaw.
And so that I know you can see all of. I've seen it before. It's a funny short, especially if you like the Saw movies. Yeah. It's pretty funny. But I would think you can probably find it maybe on HBO.com, or maybe they're all on YouTube like his. But what else drew you in about the first episode? Or just the appeal of the series?
It's just the appeal of the series, just kind of knowing where it's going to go. And we had talked a little bit about it before I saw it, kind of where it was going to go. And I'm a big fan of short films and stuff, so I love to see how those play out. And to take somebody from a short film who's living kind of in a world of short films, and this is how you make short films, to go into a feature film is a huge, huge difference and a huge load. Yeah. And to see some of the reactions and the way they handle themselves in these meetings with them, and they're just like, oh yeah, they're either sucking up or they're kind of like, I would change this, I want to change this, I don't like this, I don't like this, and you're like, well, you're here asking to do this movie, and you're kind of...
Yes, and some of the people, it's like, oh God, how did you go in there and just blow that chance, right? Because it is a better chance this time, I feel like. And that might sound weird because in the original iteration of this series, like in the first season, second season, even with Feast, they were getting a green light to make a movie that would be released extremely limited in theaters. Feast went a little bit wider than some of the other ones, and it did spawn a couple sequels, but none of them, for the most part, were all that successful because they were getting a chance to make a very, very small, low-budget movie that was probably not going to be seen by basically anyone. But this season, they're making a $3 million HBO film. It's going to be a HBO film. It's going to be, you know, a couple times a month they have a big movie. This is something that could end up being eligible for Emmys. It could be instantly, because it's on HBO, because of their pedigree. People will watch it. People that have HBO Go or HBO Now are just going to not, even if they don't know that it's that, they might just watch it because it's
an HBO,
Just like we were talking about, I think last week with Netflix. The power of that, the power of the brand, of the network. And so I feel like it really is a great opportunity this time around, more than before.
And even, you know, they had one of the HBO producers kind of in the room with them, or one of the heads, I can't remember specifically what his position was, but he even says, you know, we're HBO, we have the ability to take more chances and do more, you know, riskier things with our directors or what we're going to do or kind of where we take these things just because we are HBO, and they don't have to worry about, you know, theatrical release and distribute. You know, they have their own platform, their own program.
And they can get interesting actors. I mean, obviously, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are in some capacity involved in the producing, so they can bring in interesting people. But later on down the line, once they get to the casting process, there are interesting names thrown about. And I haven't gotten to the actual casting, but just the names that they're throwing out as possibilities, I'm like, wow, if that person's in this, then that's going to be really cool. I don't want to ruin that, but but yeah, so it's Project Greenlight. It's on HBO. I honestly don't know what night of the week it shows.
I have no idea.
But if you have HBO, you know, check your local listings or whatever, if people still do that. But I've been catching that on demand.
As
watching HBO Go or Now, whatever you have. Just watch it legally.
Yeah, please. Support the proper people to.
Yeah, for real. You know, I don't want to be too preachy. I'm not somebody that likes piracy at all. I refuse to do that. And like HBO, it used to be something that was hard to get, but now that they have HBO Now, you can literally pay like $10 a month.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same type of thing as Netflix or Hulu. You get everything HBO. Like
you get their entire back catalog of shows.
Trust me, if you don't have HBO Go and you pay for it, you have more than enough content that is worth your time.
But sweet, I'm happy you liked it. I hope you keep watching and watch see where it goes.
Next thing I'm going to talk about is the movie I saw.
Ooh.
So in preparation for the Blu-ray Signature Edition, The Iron Giant was recently re-released in theaters for 2 nights.
And you had never seen
I had never seen The Iron Giant. I think it just came out at a time, like it was that weird age for me where I was kind of getting out of animated films and it just never kind of caught me, and for whatever reason I never saw it on any TV when it was played. And I know I had people like, you didn't watch it every Thanksgiving when it played. And
or even after like Brad Bird became Brad Bird, you weren't like, I'm going to go back.
It was always one of those things I wanted to go back and see, and I just never got around to going back and seeing. But I'm glad I waited and saw it on the big screen because this was a wonderful, wonderful film. I know I'm really late to the party on this one, but I absolutely loved it. It broke me down. It's just it's so incredible.
It's honestly, you know, it's about a giant robot from space, but it is a really simple story.
Yeah,
it's that classic boy and his dog, but his dog happens to be a giant robot, right? But it is so relatable, so human, so filled with emotion, and just a great, well-told story.
Yeah.
Right? And in wonderful animation. It's such a shame that people didn't see this. I mean, it was released at a really poor time. From what I remember and what I've read, I remember going to see it, but I remember it coming out either the week or the week after Disney's Tarzan. It was basically dumped right after Thanksgiving, I think, or just before, but then all the Thanksgiving movies came out like Tarzan, and it was just forgotten.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers Animation, there's a reason that they're not really around anymore. They didn't push any of their movies. I think they really just had Iron Giant, they had Quest for Camelot. These movies that you don't talk about, you don't hear about. And you know, I'm happy that Brad Bird, who obviously went to school with Lasseter and all them, was able to find his place with Pixar after the fact. But this is a movie that people have to see. I'm so glad that you were afforded the opportunity. But it does seem like they once again kind of dumped it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember talking to you about it, or somebody about it, quite a while ago, being like, oh, they're going to release in theaters, now that I'm finally getting a chance to see it, yada, yada, yada. And then, like, a buddy of mine texted me and was like, hey, Iron Giant's playing tomorrow night. You want to go? And I was like, what? Like, I'd been to the movies the whole weekend before that. Hadn't seen a poster for it, hadn't seen a preview for it, no Fathom thing, no Regal thing, no nothing. I mean, in our theater it was a smaller theater. You guys don't know, but it's the one that's right next to the IMAX theater in Waterford, so it's not a big theater.
Right.
And it wasn't full. Like, it was a half full, you know, I mean, 2/3 maybe.
And it was probably mostly just people who already liked the
Yeah, I mean, it was
like
it
they
was all
they
adults.
literally could have advertised this movie like it was a new thing in a way, and they would have gotten a whole new generation
a whole
people.
group of kids to go see. I mean,
Yeah.
a whole new generation of
But
people. A whole
instead,
new,
they just kind of dumped it as like this event. Right, it's back in theaters. People who already know about it come get it, and we won't get any new fans. I mean, they got a new fan.
Yeah.
Right. So in some way, it worked, but eventually, you were going to see that anyway.
Mhm.
You know, I think that kids would love this movie. I think that anyone would love this
Oh
movie.
yeah.
It's a movie that I've loved since 1999 when I saw it, and like I'm staring at my VHS copy right there. You know, I've got the pop of the Iron Giant. I love the movie, and I really love Brad Bird. It would be interesting to talk about, you know, his career at some point as maybe
Sure.
one of our discussions. Obviously, most recently, he took a step back. I think some would say critically and financially with Tomorrowland.
I still
it was a
haven't
big bomb.
seen that.
I liked it. I'm
Mhm.
one of the only people in the world, it seems like, who liked that movie. So we'll have to talk about that once you do.
Sure.
For sure. But The Iron Giant, it's coming out on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I had no idea when. The movie ended, and the credits were kind of going. They advertised, oh, here's like we're gonna have a trailer for the behind-the-scenes documentary that's gonna be on the Senior Tradition Blu-ray. And so everyone, you know, it was just kind of that lull. I'm like, oh, I absolutely love this movie. Let me go pre-order the Signature Edition right now. The pop vinyl, let me see what I can get. That, as of the time of this recording, and at that time, it wasn't even on Amazon.
That's so weird.
I don't know if they haven't set a release date for it, and that's why it's not up there. But there wasn't a placeholder for it. There wasn't anything for it. I don't know if they're just kind of going to dump the Blu-ray release of it too.
It seems that way.
But
I know that there is a new sequence in the movie.
there's two supposedly.
Could you tell? They look like
They didn't. Yeah, nothing stood out as like, oh, this is better animated or this is different.
Okay.
Personally, I obviously wouldn't have any idea what they added and what they didn't.
Sure.
I think I remember reading later that there's a scene in the diner that they added, and then I think something else, but nothing looked out of place or felt different. It looked gorgeous. The animation was beautiful, and then seeing it on the big screen is just. That's one of those movies I feel like you absolutely should see this on the big screen, and it's worth seeing.
Nice. Well, that's good to hear that you like that. So that's The Iron Giant. Check it out if you haven't.
And then my final thing that I recently watched, I don't know if you watch the show or not. I just watched the season finale of Rick and Morty.
Mm-hmm.
Do you watch this at all, or?
I've seen the first episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you like it? You going back to it?
I did like it. I didn't instantly love it like I was hoping I would, the way that people talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Hulu. That's how I saw the first episode. It is something that I want to continue. You know, it's not like a huge tour. It's two seasons of what are they, 20-minute episodes?
22-minute, yeah.
It is something I want to check out, especially because I like Dan Harmon. But why don't you explain what Rick and Morty is?
So essentially, Rick and Morty, it's co-created by Dan Harmon, who did Community, and Justin Roiland. It's kind of starts off as a riff of Doc and Marty. It's a grandson and his alcoholic grandfather kind of going on adventures in space and time. Kind of early on in the season, they kind of poke fun at a lot of things like Inception, and as the series goes on, they kind of do their own thing with it. It's sort of in the way that Community took, real characters and real we made them feel like real people, and then kind of took them onto these wackier places.
Mm-hmm.
Rick and Morty kind of does the opposite of that. If you've ever seen an interview with Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon, like it's always off the rails. Justin Roiland is kind of all over the place, and the show it starts in those crazy and wacky areas, and it feels like Dan Harmon's there to kind of rein him in and add that human element and that layer of heart and stuff that he has with like Community. And like the season finale, I don't want to get into any kind of spoiler territory, but if you haven't watched it already, it's excellent. It's kind of all over the place. It's kind of like a Rick and Morty, but it's a lot more. 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 It's a it gets kind of dark. Like it takes to those same kind of places like where Community would take you to a dark place. I think this is like the best thing that Adult Swim has on it right now. It's probably my favorite thing they've done since like Moral Oral. I don't know if you ever watched that.
No, not really.
But I mean, it's definitely worth your time. It's if it wasn't on Hulu, I'd just lend you the season of it. But it's excellent. I can't, say enough about this and how much I love the show. And it was one of those things that I've kind of always championed from day one, and I'm glad it's getting the recognition that it is.
It's definitely gaining traction.
Whereas, as opposed to like Community, it started off good and then it just kind of, the ratings fell off and critics still loved it, but it just kind of went away. And this is like critics and audiences are all taking to it. And I'm glad to see it succeed in something of Harmon's, succeed after everything that happened with Community.
It's definitely really cool. I was a huge Community fan. So that's good to hear. Rick and Morty just finished season 2, so you gotta wait a while now for season 3.
Yeah, but you should be able to check it on Hulu or on the Adult Swim's website. They should have a lot of them on there.
Cool. Great.
Cool. So what have you been up to?
Alright, so I'm going to talk, we already talked about Project Greenlight, so I'm going to talk about just one thing this week, and that is I saw Ridley Scott's The Martian this past week. So obviously, of course, this movie made a lot of money, so everybody knows what it is, but basically Matt Damon plays an astronaut, Mark Watney, who is on a Mars expedition and gets left behind, presumed dead, and he's stranded on Mars.
So it's basically Interstellar.
It's kind of like his character in Interstellar, except for he's not crazy for no reason. Spoilers: Matt Damon's in Interstellar.
I guess that would be a spoiler.
This movie is really, really good.
Yeah.
Really good. Some people, you might see the 94% on Rotten Tomatoes and the way that people have been talking about it, and you might think like, oh my god, like Ridley Scott's made another, like a Gladiator that's going to win Best Picture or something like that. Wouldn't go that far.
Really?
I see this movie as being like, if Ridley Scott, at the top of his game, because this is one of his best movies, were to make something in the vein of Armageddon.
Okay.
It's light, it's fun, it's breezy, it's crowd pleasing, it's optimistic about the future, which is something that sci-fi movies almost never are.
Sure.
It's all these things that make for a grade A, crowd pleasing blockbuster piece of entertainment. But that's really, for me, all that it was. It's a very, very fun movie with great performances throughout. Matt Damon is really good. He's perfect for what the book and then the movie called.
Have you read the book?
I've read the book.
Okay.
He is exactly what you needed in Mark Watney. He's relatable. You care about him instantly. He's charismatic. I mean, it's everything that Matt Damon is when Matt Damon's at his best. Right?
Yeah.
He's funny. All these things. Like, you need to instantly care that he's going to survive or not. And he brings that. And then the supporting cast is amazing. Chiwetel Ejiofor, Kristen Wiig, Jeff Daniels, Donald Glover, Jessica Chastain. I mean, down the line.
It's such a huge... I remember seeing the trailer, and it's like the list of people that everybody's in it.
Every person is like the 10th most important person in the movie is Sean Bean, and he's awesome too. It's one of those movies that has a great cast, but it's sort of like it doesn't escalate beyond being an amazingly great watch.
Okay.
It's one of those movies that I guarantee you, in 10 years when it's on, TNT, if we're still watching cable, wherever point it's at, I'm going to watch to the end. It's one of those, but it didn't change the world, in my opinion.
Okay.
Alright, so definitely check it out, seek it out, and definitely want you to let us know what you thought.
I'm going to try to catch up on between this episode and next.
Cool. Great. And that's really what I've been up to this week.
Alright.
Was The Martian. I was stranded on Mars.
So glad you made it back for the show.
Definitely.
So that's everything we've been up to. If you like this video, subscribe it, share it with your friends. Let us know what you think in the comments below about anything we talked about here today. What do you like? What didn't you like? If there's something you feel we should check out that's worth our time, let us know there. We'll see you next time.
Bye.